I work as a night nurse at Mercy Hospital. I started a few weeks ago. I'm 33, juggling school and caring for my sick mom. Night shifts are usually quiet. Just machines humming and bulbs flickering above my head. Most nights are routine, but there have been strange moments that keep creeping back into my mind. On my second shift, I heard a patient in room 312. She was mumbling. It was odd because she looked stable. I figured I was just tired and let it go. But the next week, things got weirder. A fellow nurse mentioned following a shadow down the hallway. I brushed it off, but when I glanced down that same corridor, a chill ran up my spine. I saw something dart out of my view. I told myself it was nothing, just my tired eyes playing tricks. Then I walked by room 312 again. It was around 2 in the morning, and I glanced inside. The patient was sitting up, staring blankly at the wall. I asked if she needed anything. No response. My heartbeat quickened. I could have sworn I called her name. She just kept staring like she was lost in some deep conversation with someone invisible. I moved on, trying to shake off that feeling of dread. Maybe I was simply overthinking it. As the nights passed, I kept hearing footsteps echo through the empty hallways. Each time I turned to check, nothing was there. I felt cold, like someone watched me from a distance. I thought I was just tired. But deep down, I knew something was off. Then came the final incident. I was doing my rounds late one night when I heard a voice from room 312. It sounded desperate. I walked in, and the patient was standing up again. This time, she was looking right at me, her expression unreadable. I asked if she was okay, and then she whispered something that made my blood run cold. She said, "Why won't you help me?" I froze. My mind raced. I wanted to scream for help but couldn't find my voice. Just then, a loud crash came from the nurse's station. I turned to look, and when I turned back, she was gone. I thought maybe I imagined it, but I swear I saw her face in the shadows, watching me. That night felt unbearable. I could barely finish my shift. I kept replaying the events in my mind. Was it just exhaustion messing with my head? Or was there something really strange going on in that hospital? Walking down those halls alone felt different. I kept glancing at room 312, hoping she wouldn't be there. But I knew deep down that I wasn't alone in those dark, long nights. Maybe something sinister was lurking just out of sight. And maybe that's what scared me the most. The next night, I felt the weight of apprehension pressing down on me as I clocked in for my shift. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I wanted to dismiss it as just nerves, but the events from the previous shifts replayed in my mind like an old, worn-out tape. I started my rounds, checking in on patients. Everything was quiet, but the tension hung in the air. I found myself moving toward room 312 again. I stood outside the door, heart racing, half expecting to see the patient sitting up in bed, staring blankly at the wall. I took a deep breath and knocked softly. "Ms. Jenkins?" "It's me, Karen." "Just checking in," I called out, but silence met my ears. I slowly pushed the door open. The bed was empty. A mix of confusion and dread twisted in my stomach. I glanced around the room, looking for any sign of her. The bathroom was empty, the window was closed. I turned to leave when I noticed something sticking out from beneath the bed. I crouched down and reached for it, my heart pounding as I pulled out a tattered notebook. It was filled with jagged handwriting, sentences that didn't make much sense. "They take me away," one line read. "Help me." Chills ran down my spine. Who was this woman, really? And what had been happening in this room? I tossed the notebook onto the bedside table, feeling the press of unease settle deeper. I had to find one of the doctors in charge. Maybe they'd have answers. That I hurried down the hallway, though a sense of being watched pricked at the back of my neck. I stopped by the nurse's station and spoke with a senior nurse, who just shook her head at my concerns. "Room 312's been fine," she said. "Just an older lady. Probably just losing her mind a bit." But losing her mind didn't explain the whispers I'd heard or the chilling presence I felt. I pushed onward, determined to get answers. I had the night off after this shift, so I planned to investigate further. As I passed the break room, I heard a rustling sound. I stepped in cautiously and found another nurse rifling through papers. "What is going on?" I asked. She looked up, eyes wide. "I'm trying to get my hands on any documents about that woman in 312. I heard about some weird things happening. They say she was in a different room before." I felt a pulse of recognition. "What do you mean?" The records didn't match up. 1 minute she was in a different part of the hospital. Then they moved her here. It doesn't make sense. My heart raced. "What happened to her in the other room?" She shrugged. "No one really knows. Just that she had some weird episodes. Like she was conversing with something or someone." Before I could ask more, the lights flickered. I felt an icy draft sweep through the room. The other nurse looked around, panic evident in her eyes. "I don't like this, Karen. Let us get out of here." As we turned to leave, the emergency lights kicked on, casting eerie shadows across the walls. I glanced back at room 312, the door slightly ajar. I had to know more. But when I stepped outside, everything changed. Suddenly, the hallway felt alive. I heard faint whispers, low and urgent. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew they were calling. In that moment, I understood, I was caught in something far deeper than just a patient's plight. I had to discover the truth before it consumed me, too. And then I heard her voice again, clearer this time, echoing in my mind. "Why won't you help me?" I stood frozen for a moment, the voice wrapping around me like a cold fog. "Why won't you help me?" It reverberated in my head, a desperate plea that sent shivers down my spine. I pushed the fear aside and rushed toward room 312 again. As I stepped into the room, the air felt heavier. The notebook lay untouched on the table, as if it were waiting for me. I flipped through its pages again, searching for any clues. The handwriting frantically danced across the paper, more phrases like "they're here and it's not safe." I could feel the pit in my stomach deepening. I needed to know more about Ms. Jenkins, what she was afraid of, who she was talking to. I decided to search for the nurse from earlier, hoping she might have more information. I stepped back into the hallway, but it wasn't as empty as it had been before. Shadows flickered along the walls, and the whispers grew louder, blending into an indistinct harmony of voices. "Karen," one of the whispers called softly, eerily familiar. I spun around but saw no one. My heart raced as I pressed forward, trying to ignore the creeping unease that I saw the nurse at the end of the corridor. She was leaning over the filing cabinet, rifling through old patient records. "Hey!" I called, my voice trembling slightly. She looked up, startled. "What did you find out about Ms. Jenkins?" Her expression changed. "You didn't hear, did you? She was supposed to be in custody for several days before she got moved here. There are no official records beyond that." "Custody? For what?" "I don't know the whole story," she whispered, her gaze shifting nervously. "But I have heard she was involved in some strange occurrences before. Like unsettling things happened around her, like accidents or worse." Before I could ask for more information, the lights flickered again, and everything felt disoriented. I grabbed the edge of the cabinet for support as shadows warped, stretching longer down the hall. "Let us get out of here," the nurse urged, but something held me in place. From the corner of my eye, I spotted a figure slip into room 312. My breath caught in my throat. I dashed toward the door, heart pounding. The nurse grabbed my wrist. "It's not safe, Karen. We can't go in there." I shook her off, fueled by something deeper than fear. I had to know. I pushed through the door, and as I stepped inside, I saw her. Ms. Jenkins sat up in bed, her eyes wide and frantic, staring right at me. "Why didn't you come sooner?" she croaked, voice breaking. "They'll take me away again." "Who will?" I demanded, the words tumbling out. The shadows danced at the corners of my vision, and the whispers returned, louder and more insistent. Before I could get a response, blaring alarms erupted in the hall. The lights went completely out. I was plunged into darkness. "Karen." The nurse's voice echoed from the hallway. I stumbled, disoriented, hearing the chaos outside echoing my own rising terror. I reached for the light switch, but nothing worked, then everything went silent. The whispers faded into the background. I could hear Ms. Jenkins' ragged breathing, but as I turned back to her, she was gone, vanished from her bed as if she had never been there at all. "Ms. Jenkins?" I whispered, panic settling in. Just then, something cold brushed against my neck, a chilling reminder that I was not alone. I gasped, spinning around to face the door, feeling my heartbeat echo in the suffocating silence. The weight of the darkness pressed down on me, thick and confusing. I fumbled toward where I remembered the bed being, but all I touched was empty air. "Get a grip, Karen," I whispered to myself, trying to steady my breathing. I needed to find a way out, or at least find some light. I shuffled toward where the door had been but tripped over a small table. My palms hit the cold floor, and I winced at the sudden pain. As I pushed myself back up, the alarms outside seemed to fade, replaced by the quiet hum of the hospital machinery. I felt a strange pull, like something was urging me to stay, to uncover whatever chaos Ms. Jenkins had tried to warn me about. "Why didn't you come sooner?" I whispered in the darkness, mimicking her broken voice. It echoed back, and for a moment, I thought I heard a low chuckle. My stomach dropped, and I stumbled toward the door, feeling along the wall. Just as my fingers brushed the handle, something slammed against the other side, jolting me back. My heart raced anew as I pressed against the wall, waiting. "Hello?" I called out, hoping someone might answer. Silence hung thick. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, blinding me for a second. When they stabilized, I was met with an unsettling scene. The room was exactly as it had been except for one notable difference. The notebook lay wide open on the floor, as if someone had taken it and dropped it in haste. Written on the last page were 2 words, "They're watching." A chill shot down my spine. Before I could process the implication, an icy gust swirled around me. The whispers returned, now rising to a cacophony. My breath came in short gasps as I staggered backward. I ducked instinctively as a shadow darted past, barely catching a glimpse of a pale face with wide eyes staring right through me. "Get out!" I heard Ms. Jenkins' voice again, cutting through the chaos, fierce and pleading. I didn't waste another moment. I pulled open the door and bolted into the hallway. The nurse was there, still lingering near the filing cabinet, and relief washed over me. "You're okay," she exclaimed, rushing toward me. But the worry in her eyes grew as she absorbed my frantic state. "What happened?" "Ms. Jenkins, she was here," and I struggled to explain, but my mind was racing. The shadows, the whispers, she said they were coming for her. The nurse paled. "You shouldn't have gone in there, Karen," she said, her voice trembling. Before I could respond, the lights flickered again, this time more violently. The air crackled, and I felt a charge ripple through me. I looked around, noticing the other rooms down the hall now stood open, shadows spilling out like dark tendrils reaching for me. "That's when I saw it," I said breathlessly, pointing down the corridor. A figure stood motionless at the far end, shrouded in shadows. But as the lights flickered back on, it was gone. Just like that, I was alone again. "Stay close," the nurse urged, pulling me back against the cabinets. "What did you see?" "I don't know. But we need to leave now." Then, another alarm blared, accompanied by the echo of something heavy clanging to the floor somewhere inside the hospital. I could feel every nerve in my body scream for me to run. I turned to the nurse, ready to flee, but something made me hesitate. "What if it's still in there?" I asked. As if in answer, the whispers coalesced into a singular voice, chilling and clear, "You'll never escape." I grabbed the nurse's arm, my heart racing. "We can't stay here," I urged, my voice trembling. I was sure I heard footsteps echoing behind me, a heavy, deliberate beat that made my skin crawl. "We have to find a way out before it finds us." She nodded, her face pale but determined. "Follow me, quickly." We rushed down the hall, the bright fluorescent lights flickering above us, casting unsettling shadows that danced along the walls. Each crash of the alarm sent my mind spiraling further into panic. I could feel the weight of something unseen, lurking just out of sight, hungry for attention. The nurse led us toward the stairwell, but when we reached the door, it wouldn't budge. I pushed against it, panic rising in my throat. "What's wrong? Why won't it open?" "It's locked," she said, pulling frantically at the handle. Sweat glistened on her forehead. "There must be another way." "Let's check the other rooms," I suggested, my mind racing. I was filled with a desperate need to find a safe space, even if just for a moment. We darted into the nearest room, a darkened patient unit. The heavy curtains were drawn tight, but I could see the dim glow of the hallway lights filtering through the cracks. It felt almost claustrophobic. I breathed in the stale air, wishing I could push aside the dread that filled the space. "Is anyone here?" the nurse whispered, her voice shaky. I scanned the room, but it was empty, save for a lonely bed and medical equipment that looked almost forgotten. Then, I noticed the bed's sheets were rumpled, as if someone had recently been startled awake. I moved closer, and a chill crept down my spine as I caught sight of a dark spot on the pillow, a small, dried stain. I turned to the nurse, my stomach churning. "Is that blood?" Before she could respond, I heard them again, the faint whispers circling the room, growing increasingly louder. I clutched her arm tighter, waiting for her to hear it too. "Karen," she said slowly, "we can't stay here. We have to keep moving." As we stepped back toward the door, the lights flickered once more, plunging the room into darkness. The whispers turned frantic, overlapping each other in a chaos of sound that made it hard to think. My heart thudded in my chest, and I felt the urge to scream. Then, just as soon as it began, the lights returned, but now something was different. The door we had just entered was gone. In its place stood a wall, solid and unyielding. Panic surged through me. "What's happening?" The nurse's face drained of color. "This isn't good. Something is manipulating the hospital's layout." I could barely stand as the weight of her words settled in. "Where do we go now?" Then, behind us, I noticed something moving. The shadows in the corner twisted, dark shapes writhing together to form a figure definite and horrifying. Eyes glinted in the low light, locking onto us, and I froze. "We need to fight," I whispered, my voice steady despite my fear. "We can't let it take us." Suddenly, the figure lunged forward as the whispers crescendoed, uniting into that same chilling voice, "You can't escape me." Before I could react, the ground beneath us shifted. Everything went dark. I awoke on the cold floor, my body aching. The buzz of overhead lights surrounded me, harsh and disorienting. It took a few moments for my senses to return, but when they did, my heart sank. I was alone. Where was the nurse? I scrambled to my feet, adrenaline coursing through me. The last thing I remembered was the figure lurching forward, but now, there was no sign of it or her. Just the empty hallway stretching out before me, dim and eerie. "Hello?" I called, my voice echoing unsettlingly. Silence answered. I couldn't tell if the stillness brought relief or unease that I stumbled forward, glancing into rooms as I passed. Each one was either empty or filled with remnants of what should be a busy hospital: overturned chairs, discarded medical charts, and faded posters that felt long forgotten. In one room, I saw a faint glow emit from the far corner. Compelled by a mixture of fear and curiosity, I approached. As I neared the source of the light, my breath caught in my throat. There, lying on the floor, was a small, handheld device. It looked like an old walkie-talkie. I picked it up, and as I did, a voice crackled through it. "Please, help." "Hello?" I responded, my pulse quickening again. "Who is this?" The voice continued faintly, "Forgive me, don't let it find you." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving an unsettling quiet in its wake. My heart raced as I realized what I had found. This was what she had been trying to warn me about. I dropped it, letting it clatter to the floor. I needed to get out, but the hall stretched further ahead, darker and more menacing with each step. I took a deep breath and pushed forward, each footfall echoing ominously. Then I heard a faint sound, like fingernails scraping against metal. It came from behind a nearby door. The urge to run was almost overwhelming, but my curiosity held me in place. I hesitated, thoughts racing. If it was the nurse, I couldn't just leave her. But what if it wasn't? I reached for the doorknob, my fingers trembling as they grazed the cold metal. I turned it slowly, the hinges creaked loudly as the door opened. The sight inside sent chills through my body. Papers littered a desk, a light flickered above, and right in the center of the room was a mirror. But when I looked into it, I didn't see my reflection. Instead, there was darkness, an overwhelming void that moved and shifted. I leaned closer, unable to pull away. And then I heard it, the deep voice from before, now almost whispering right in my ear. "Join me forever." I stumbled back, fear gripping me. I turned to flee but was met with a figure standing in the doorway, the same one as before, its eyes glinting with hunger. "Now you can't escape," it said, an eerie smile stretching across its face. Just as I felt its presence closing in, the floor shook violently, knocking me off balance. Everything erupted into chaos, and I was falling again, this time into a darkness deeper than before. I landed hard, the breath knocked from my lungs. The darkness wrapped around me like a shroud, thick and suffocating. Distant sounds reverberated in my ears, faint cries, the beeping of machines, maybe even the shuffle of feet. I couldn't tell if I was dreaming or awake. Panic surged. I forced myself to stand, pushing against an invisible weight trying to pin me down. Finally, I managed to push through the consuming blackness, taking a step forward. My shoulders brushed against a cool wall, and with a deep breath, I inched along, feeling my way in the dark. Then, I heard it again. A low growl that sent shivers down my spine, vibrating through the floor. It was close. My instincts screamed at me to run, but all I could do was keep moving forward, one careful step at a time. I suddenly spotted a glow ahead. Heart racing, I hurried toward it, hoping it would lead me to safety. As I got closer, the light brightened, revealing a room filled with random medical equipment and dust-covered machines. A stark white fluorescent light flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows on the walls. As I stepped into the room, my foot caught on something. I stumbled, looking down to see what it was. It was a surgical mask, stained and crumpled. I felt bile rise in my throat. Why was it here? What had happened in this place? I glanced around and immediately noticed a table to my left. On it lay charts and research papers, but what caught my eye was a picture torn and yellowed. I picked it up. It was a photo of a nurse, smiling brightly, but her eyes seemed haunted, as though she knew secrets not meant for the living. I dropped it as if it burned me. I had to leave. The low growl suddenly morphed into a series of furious scratching sounds. It was coming from the far corner of the room. My breath quickened. I backed up slowly, willing myself to stay calm. Whatever was making that noise was near, and then, through the dim light, I saw it. A pair of eyes glowing in the shadows, fixated on me. The creature emerged slowly, gliding across the floor with unnatural grace. Its figure was twisted and vaguely human, but its mouth twisted into a snarl too wide for its face, revealing jagged teeth. Instinct took over. I bolted for the door, my pulse pounding in my ears. I yanked the handle, but it wouldn't budge. I threw my weight against it, desperation fueling my movements. I couldn't let it catch me. The scratching grew louder as I felt the thing's presence behind me, a rush of darkness. Just as I finally got the door open, I hesitated. The figure was there, poised to strike. In a split-second decision, I squeezed through and slammed the door shut. I leaned against it, breathless, listening. The scratching continued, but I was alive at least for now. I stumbled into the hallway, looking for any signs of safety. That's when I saw a flicker of white cloth disappearing around a corner. My heart leapt. Was it the nurse? Help! I screamed, pushing myself forward, desperate for an answer, for salvation. The sound of laughter echoed through the halls, icy and malicious. It was all-consuming, echoing the sinister promise of a trap I couldn't see. I took a deep breath and followed, knowing I had to confront whoever or whatever had orchestrated this nightmare. But as I rounded the corner, I froze. There stood a group of figures, all clad in that same white attire, their faces obscured. They turned toward me in unison. And my heart sank as one of them stepped forward, revealing a familiar face, but the smile didn't belong to her anymore. "Welcome back," it whispered, voice dripping with malice. What was happening? I couldn't move. The figure's face was one I knew all too well, my sister, Amy. But this wasn't her. The eyes that once sparkled with kindness were now void of warmth. Fear gripped me, making my legs feel like lead. "Amy?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. The other figures shifted, their attention focused on me like a pack of wolves closing in on prey. My heart raced, pumping adrenaline through my veins. I had to get out of there. They advanced slowly, stepping out of the shadows, their movements synchronized and unnatural. I turned and ran, my footsteps echoing in the hollow hallway behind me. Every instinct screamed to escape. I darted down the corridor, glancing back just as I reached a T-junction. To my right lay a set of double doors, partially ajar. To the left, the hallway continued into darkness. I chose the doors, my decision made in a split second. I pushed through the heavy doors, the cold metal biting into my palm. The room was wider, filled with more equipment, monitors displaying lines that squiggled and flattened, their meanings lost on me. The beeping increased, and I felt sensory overload. I needed to focus. Then, I heard it again, the laughter. It was higher now, filled with a twisted joy. I turned, and to my horror, the figures had followed me in, their shapes now retreating into the shadows, except for Amy. She stepped closer, her smile grotesque. "You never left us, did you?" she said, tilting her head like a curious child. "You always come back. Get away from me." I screamed, grasping the nearest object, a clipboard. It felt useless, but it was better than nothing. "Why are you scared?" Amy asked. "You know this place. You know what happens here." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. I was feeling trapped in a nightmare of my own making. I couldn't let her get to me. I started to back away, searching for an exit, but the others emerged from the shadows, surrounding me. I backed up against the wall, feeling the cold bite of metal against my skin. There was no way out. "What do you want from me?" I demanded. My voice trembled despite my effort to sound strong. "All we want is your company, dear sister," she replied, her voice sweet yet sinister. "You were always meant to join us. We have so much to share." "I'm not like you," I shouted, trying to push past the throng. They surged forward, and I swung the clipboard wildly, missing her but connecting with another figure. It staggered back, but the others kept advancing. Then, from behind them, I noticed a door at the far end of the room, a potential escape. Gathering all my strength, I took off, shoving through the figures. I felt their hands reaching for me, but I dodged, racing for the door. I reached for the handle, adrenaline sparking through my veins, but just as I twisted it, a cold grip wrapped around my wrist. I was yanked back, pulled into the suffocating embrace of the shadows. "Amy, please!" I screamed, panic flooding my voice. But then everything went dark. In that silence, I heard whispers, taunting, echoing in my mind. I felt myself being dragged back, pulled away from the door. I didn't know what lay ahead, but I was desperate to find out. What happened next would change everything. The darkness was suffocating. It wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, and I could feel the whispers inching closer, filling my head with static and fear. I was no longer in control. The grip on my wrist tightened, pulling me backward deeper into the void. "Amy?" I called out, my voice trembling. I was afraid to move, afraid to breathe. It felt like I was being led into a trap, far from the safety of the door I had been trying so hard to reach. "Don't be afraid," a voice cooed from the depths. It wasn't Amy's. This was deeper, more malevolent. My heart raced. I hadn't just stumbled onto something familiar, I had wandered into an abyss. Suddenly, a flicker of light pierced the blackness. I narrowed my eyes, struggling to focus. A figure stepped into view, not the faceless mass that had swallowed me, but someone more defined. The face was twisted and wrong, yet unsettlingly familiar. It was a nurse from the hospital, a kind woman I'd known years ago. "Help me, please!" I cried out, desperate for any sign of empathy. "Help you?" she echoed, her smile growing broader. "But it's too late for that. You're one of us now." I jerked away, still trapped in the grasp of the shadows. With all my strength, I swung my other arm, hoping for some feeble chance to break free. The nurse's form flickered, as if she struggled to remain solid. "Where's my sister?" I shouted, panic rising. "What have you done to her?" "Shoo," she replied with a sickly sweet tone. "You'll see her soon enough. She's just getting ready." Everything around me felt like it was shifting. The cold grip released my wrist, and I stumbled forward, my feet catching on something. I fell to the ground and blinked, trying to adjust to the dim light. Then I noticed it. The room had transformed into something resembling a waiting area. Fluorescent lights buzzed above, giving an eerie glow to the faded posters on the walls. But nothing looked right. The chairs were overturned, and scattered papers were strewn across the floor. It felt wrong, a void of familiarity twisted with something sinister. I jumped to my feet, scanning every corner for movement. That's when I saw it, a doorway, partially obscured by shadows. It wasn't the door I had tried to escape through. This one felt different, as if it whispered promises of safety. But even as I stepped closer, dread pooled at the pit of my stomach. What if I found Amy? If she was like the others, if she couldn't be saved before I could turn back? I heard the laughter echo through the room, a chilling, ringing sound that froze me in place. It beckoned me forward like a moth to a flame, promising answers but threatening to reveal horrors I couldn't fathom. Gathering what's left of my courage, I pushed through the thin door, my heart pounding in rhythm with the laughter. I didn't know what awaited me, but I was running out of options. Then the door slammed shut behind me, cutting off the noise and leaving me alone in a new darkness. A faint light flickered ahead. I squinted, moving cautiously, unsure of what I would find. That's when I heard her voice again, clearer this time. "You came back for me," Amy said from somewhere in the shadows. A chill rippled through me. I wasn't alone anymore. I turned toward the sound, my heart threatening to leap from my chest. "Amy?" I called out cautiously, stepping deeper into the dimly lit space. "Is that really you?" The shadows shifted, and then she emerged, her smile unnaturally wide, her eyes glinting with an unsettling fervor. "You found me," she said, though something about her tone sent daggers of dread through me. I took a step back, my instinct screaming that this wasn't the sister I had known. "Amy, what happened to you?" I asked, every word heavy with fear. "What is going on here?" The laughter echoed again, and she tilted her head, her gaze piercing. "We're together now, Karen. You were always meant to join us. This place, it calls to you." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't you want to belong?" "No." I spat, instinctually raising my arms in defense. "I need to get out." "I came to find you, but you're not," she interrupted, her voice suddenly fierce. "You can't escape. They know where you are. They always have." The shadows thickened around her, twisting like smoke, and I could feel the darkness creeping back toward me. That I shook my head, fighting the pulling sensation deep in my gut that urged me to yield. "I'm not like you. I want to let them take me. Aren't you curious?" She pressed, stepping closer. "All the truths these walls hold? Everything they know? You can be one of us. Knowledge is power, sister." "Why would I want that?" I shouted, stepping back even further. "You used to be my ally. You used to help people." Her laughter again rang out, tinged with something sinister. "What if helping them meant becoming them? We protect each other here. You see, it's all interconnected. The whispers, the shadows, they're the memories of people trapped just like us." Without thinking, I turned and fled past her, my heart hammering in my chest. I raced toward the flickering light ahead, desperate to escape this twisted reunion. Behind me, I heard the shadows shift, and for a brief moment, I feared she would pursue me, her laughter weaving into a cacophony of whispers. As I pushed through the dimly lit doorway, I stumbled into what appeared to be another section of the hospital, a corridor lined with old, decrepit rooms. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered erratically, but I had no choice but to keep moving forward, the shadows thrumming at my back. Then, from somewhere deep in the hallway, I heard a cry, a voice that sent a tremor through my bones, familiar yet distant. "Help, please, someone." It was slurred, pleading, cutting through the dissonance surrounding me like a knife. "Amy?" I shouted, racing toward the sound. "Is that you?" The response was in a low whisper. "Karen, help me." I barreled forward, pulling open a nearby door and stepping into a room. My heart sank as I took in the sight before me, a figure huddled in the corner, weak and trembling, wrapped in shadows. "Are you all right?" I asked, stepping closer. As the figure turned to face me, the light revealed Ms. Jenkins' weary face, her eyes alight with an urgent desperation. "You shouldn't be here, you must escape." The echoes of laughter faded as I grabbed her arms, feeling the strength leave her. "I need to help you." "Don't," she hissed, eyes darting toward the door. "They know you're here. This isn't just a hospital anymore, it's a prison." I hesitated. "What happened to you?" "The darkness has a hold on this place. It feeds on those connected, those who know," she said, her gaze clouded with fear. "But it can't take you if you don't give in. You have to find the light that leads out." Just as she spoke, a shriek echoed down the hall. My blood ran cold. They were coming for us. "I can't leave you behind," I cried out, adrenaline coursing through me. "No. You must go," Ms. Jenkins insisted, pushing me toward the door. "Find the truth. It will guide you." "I can't go back, not anymore." I hesitated. What truth? What could possibly help? But before I could ponder further, her expression shifted to something darker. Shadows loomed, creeping closer, a figure forming behind her. I took a step back, the realization hitting me, I needed to run. "I'm so sorry," I yelled, turning away as I burst back into the hallway. The laughter enveloped me again, a phantasmic backdrop as I raced down the corridor, dodging shadows that leered and twisted. I had to find the way out, but I could feel their presence, their eyes glued to my every movement. Suddenly, the hallway veered sharply, and I skidded to a halt. I could see the exit sign flickering at the far end, glowing almost invitingly but swathed in a thick, opaque darkness. With nowhere else to turn, I sprinted toward it, heart racing as the chaos spiraled around me. Just as I reached for the door handle, a chilling voice called out. "You are never meant to escape, Karen." I paused, the adrenaline crashing over my skin like a wave. I turned, the twisted figures forming behind me, their faces warping into grotesques. But this time, I didn't look back. I grasped the handle, needed it. I forced the door open and stepped outside, a surge of hope bringing light into the darkness. Exhaling deeply, I ran into the night air, leaving the whispers and shadows behind. I was free, or so I thought. That I glanced back, the imposing hospital looming faintly against the night sky, its secrets still buried within its walls. As I stepped away, I could still hear echoes of laughter mingled with the soft whispers of those long lost. Sometimes I wonder if the hospital still calls to me. They say you can never really leave.